The RTX 30 series promises a lot of great things to consumers. Whether you're a gamer or someone who works in an industry that requires a powerful GPU, the new features of the new Ampere architecture over the previous iteration can really get you very excited. Just over a week after its announcement, custom cards from various brands have already sprouted like mushrooms in the Philippine market. In my case, I personally picked this ASUS TUF Gaming 3080 10G via ASUS flagship store in Lazada last September 17, and it arrived a week later. In today's video, I will be giving you my consumer review of the GPU and present to you various benchmark results from over 50 tests using our methodology. This is not in any way sponsored by neither ASUS nor NVIDIA, so rest assured of my unbiased take on this device. Now that it's out of the way, let's proceed with the specifications. What I got, as I mentioned earlier, is the TUF Gaming RTX 3080 10G Gaming. This is not the overclockable version, so if you're looking for a review of that one, you can check out the written review of my friend Max Suba of backtogaming.com. However, if you're here for the non-overclockable variant, then this is the right place for you. This TUF Gaming RTX 3080 10G features the latest NVIDIA Ampere streaming multiprocessor with its 2nd generation RT cores and 3rd generation Tensor cores, which both promise twice the throughput of its 1st gen iterations. This baby supports up to 8K resolution and it's marketed to deliver a huge boost in gaming performance. While TUF or ASUS followed the reference design of NVIDIA, they employed their own design to further optimize its performance and regulate thermals. This GPU right here features an all-aluminum shroud that completely protects the device. It looks, well, tough on the outside, pun intended, and structurally integral inside. If you're a big fan of minimalist design and you don't want yourself to be blinded by RGBs like my setup right here, this TUF Gaming RTX 3080 spouses a design philosophy that fits perfectly for you. It still has RGB just above its shroud and may be controlled via Aura Sync, but it is not as flamboyant or majestic compared to its ROG Strix variants. While I'll be talking about thermals later, this GPU's triple fan setup has a trick up its sleeve. The fans are tuned with a reverse rotation for the center fan, which reduces turbulence and automatically stops if the GPU's temperature drops below 55 degrees. Right now, I'm telling you that this is one of the coolest, literally the coolest GPU I've used so far. Now, whatever ASUS did definitely works on this GPU right here, and I must commend them really for that. I installed this GPU on my main rig. For your reference, my rig is powered with an AMD Ryzen 9 3900X and 32GB of RAM in a TUF Gaming X570 Plus motherboard. I originally wanted to mount this GPU on my Fantex GPU riser, but because of the compatibility issue, I had to take it out and install it directly to its PCIe 4.0 safe slot. My PC runs with an ROG Strix 750 watts gaming power supply, which I'll get into later on. Now, I don't have a 4K display at the moment, so I did not perform any 4K tests on this review. I used the ASUS VG27QL1A for native 1440p display, while I used the ASUS XG27VQ and the AOC27G2 for native 1080p display. Our methodology does not deviate from our previous graphics cards reviews. We use several industry tools and practices to benchmark the unit that I bought. I mainly used CapFrameX to measure specific metrics like frame times, average 1% and 5% FPS, power draw, and temperature. I also monitored the min-max and average power consumption and thermals using HW or hardware monitor. With all the data gathered and extracted from our tools, I used Microsoft Excel as our main database and tool to put up the chart for us to check out. Benchmark results are not indicative of how it actually performs in real life. You can use these results for reference only, but I suggest that you compare our results to other credible reviewers as well. I performed several benchmark tests using 3D Mark. It almost reached 15,000 score on TimeSpy, but here's how it performed on Firestrike. Score reached 7,729 for 2160p resolution, 8,812 on 1440p, and 8,914 on 1080p. For game benchmarks, I played 3 games with ray tracing support and 5 without ray tracing. Each test is performed in various resolutions and settings, but as I mentioned earlier, I'm only limited to providing you results for 1440p and 1080p settings. Crysis Remastered is pretty new and I managed to test this in various settings. This test is pretty interesting because it has Can It Run Crysis setting, which cranks all the settings up to the point of crushing the 3080. Nevertheless, at 1440p in this setting, I managed to get 41.4 average FPS without ray tracing and decent 33 average FPS with ray tracing turned on. Performance was not exactly good, but definitely playable. While I certainly believe that performance can still be improved with optimization pushes from the developer, I highly recommend that you play this game at high settings in 1440p resolution for the time being. As one of the most atmospheric games launched this year, Metro Exodus exhibits the best implementation of ray tracing in the industry. In my opinion, it is one of the highly optimized games as well. At 1440p, at ultra settings, I managed to play at close to 100 FPS without ray tracing and 83.8 with ray tracing enabled. This should be able to give you an idea of how well this game performs with this card and the system we're currently using. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is the latest in the series. While it still has optimization issues, it is one of the first titles to launch with ray tracing support. The performance of this game using this card is both good and weird. The game shines with 95.7 average FPS at 1440p ultra texture setting with ray tracing enabled. Performance across settings with or without ray tracing are almost identical. Let us now move on to games without ray tracing support. Microsoft Flight Simulator is the new Crysis. Whether you're using a high-end or mid-range PC, it's very likely that it will struggle at one point when you play this game. In my case, I chose New York downtown as my benchmark location because it's one of the most populated cities in the game. My 1-minute benchmark stretch is from Statue of Liberty to Empire State Building using a Daiher TBM 930. I barely reached 40 average FPS at both 1080p and 1440p Ultra preset. Anyo 1800 has the most graphics-intensive in-game benchmarking tool. While there's a significant bump in performance when playing at DirectX 11, the game is still definitely playable even using DirectX 12 at 1440p. DirectX 12 improves the game's graphics, yet crunches the available resources the TUF RTX 3080 10G can give out. This is the game in the series of our benchmark to really push the limit of the ASUS TUF RTX 3080, which I will further expound when we talk about thermals and power draw. With the game replay of BTS Dota 2 online between Fnatic and Motivate at 10-minute mark, the game managed to run at 99.7 average FPS at high texture quality for 1080p and 98.7 average FPS at high texture quality for 1440p. This year's overly saturated version of Far Cry 5, Far Cry New Dawn, performs at decent 74.8 average FPS at 1440p Ultra settings. If you're into esports, Rainbow Six Siege strikes as one of the best games available for gamers. It does not require a lot of graphics resources and is highly optimized. For thermals and power draw, let it be known that I did my review in a 27 degrees Celsius room. Internal case temperature is at 38 degrees Celsius. The card has an idle temperature of around 47°C and reached its max temp of 64°C when I played Anyo 1800. The backplate temperature is at 50°C while the heatsink is at 36.7°C. The ASUS TUF Gaming RTX 3080 is definitely one of the coolest cards I've reviewed. In terms of power draw, the TUF Gaming RTX 3080 peaked at 320 watts while playing Anyo 1800. This just means that if you've got a 750 watts PSU, then there's no immediate need to get a new one unless you want your card to perform at its most efficient state. 650 watts PSUs can still be used, but you might run into some problems when new games that require more GPU resources come out in the future. For my conclusion, this has got to be one of the best valued custom RTX 3080 cards available in the market right now. It's cool, performs just as good if not better than the Founders Edition, and you're not losing a lot of performance bump if you did not buy the OC version. Priced at 41,000 pesos, I don't think that you'll still be able to buy one in the market right now. Now, if ASUS announces that they're restocking this variant again, don't think twice about getting one for yourself. Again, this has been Gian of GadgetPilipinas.net. Hope you guys enjoyed my full review of the RTX 3080 by TUF Gaming. Again, this is not the overclockable version. If you want to see the written review of this card right here, you can go and check out our website at GadgetPilipinas.net. But if you're looking for the overclockable version, we might have that in the future. But for now, at the time of the production of this video, you may want to go and check out Max Suba's review on their website at backtogaming.com. Again, this has been Gian. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.